Hello and welcome to my new video. Today I will be diving into the pets I have at home and pets I used to have. So how many do I own? What do I own? Why do I own them? And why is pickle just so good? I don't know. You will probably notice that my voice is a little bit off, and that's because I'm having a cold. My nose is running and my voice sounds like I've been smoking for the past 50 years even though I'm 24. So today I will be talking mostly about my reptiles, but I also have two dogs that I can cover quickly here. So I got Nora first. She is a mix between a squirrel and a beaver. Her natural habitat is inside of a dumpster and she loves to rip apart trash. I mean, I don't have a clue what breed she is or what she's mixed with. I have no idea. She's born 2012 and I adopted her 2016. She used to live in the streets of Portugal. I was told that she used to live with a man that used to beat her before she ended up on the streets and then in the shelter and the organization I adopted her from. But I also found a brother that lives here in Sweden, so her story before coming here is a little bit sketchy. She is a little bit unstable mentally and that shows. You can ask my friends that has been bitten. But I would trade a word for her. It makes me a little bit sad because you can start noticing how slowly she gets older and she can't do things that she used to be able to do. She also had some health issues. A few years ago, she got a severe infection in her uterus and they had to cut it out entirely. A year later she started having seizures. Turns out to be epilepsy. So we went to a neurologist. Nora only has about 2 to 3 seizures a year, so it's not enough to get her starting on medications. But she has what we call tics. Her face twitches. The neurologist said that it was because of the epilepsy. A week ago we had problem with our insurance company and we had to insure her again, which required a veterinary examination. And turns out she's fat. After checking out her uterus, her hormones act a little bit different than from before, which makes it easier for her to gain weight. She needs to lose about 5 kilograms, not grams, that would be too easy. So, new diet and absolutely no treats for her. I mean, she actually likes her new food, so it's not that bad. But under her examination, it turns out that her heart wasn't beating as it should. So, a heart problem. We were told that it was a minor problem, but we will be booking an appointment with a specialist to just double check after she lost some weight. Because her being fat can be the issues why she's having a hard time with her heart. So we will see. After getting Nora, a few years later I met my boyfriend. He was jelly of me and Nora and wanted to have his own dog. He really liked the relationship between me and Nora. It was kind of obvious that she was my dog. So we adopted Upi. Upi is a mix between a Belgian and a German Shepherd. He was about 3 years old when we got him in 2017, and he was a rehome. People that owned him before couldn't take care of him anymore and needed to find a new home for him. So that's the story of him. Around the same year I adopted Nora, I started to pick up interest in reptiles. Sort of. I heard of a reptile shop a town away and I really wanted to go and see what they had. My original plan was to get an axolot. And luckily I didn't get one. I said luckily because I was a little bit of a turd and had no clue how much work it goes into them. Of course, I didn't do my research on them and just quick Google search the care. And thought all I needed was a tank, water from the tap and some decorations. I also only had an old 15-gallon aquarium that I wanted to use. So nothing was prepared. My little peanut brain didn't understand that axolots are really complicated with the water temperatures and parameters inside of the water, like ammonia and things like that. So when I got to the store, I absolutely fell in love with the white tree frogs, or also called Dumpy's tree frogs. Mind you, we don't have these big chain stores like Petco and PetSmart. This store was a big, locally owned reptile store, with people that have interest and tons of experience with reptiles. I still love the shop to today, and I got several animals from there that I still own. So I fell in love with the frogs, and they provided me with the information and all the supplies I needed for my crusty ass old aquarium I had at home. I named my frog Belpagor. Bell lived for a couple of years in what I now consider bad husbandry. You are not supposed to handle them without gloves. Your hands can be dirty and they absorb that crap with their skin. The moss that he lived on was an infection risk, and he could easily eat it and block his small spaghetti intestines. And he didn't have proper lighting, and room temperatures were, or the temperatures were from 23 to 25. Please, for the love of God, do research and don't impulse buy animals you don't know anything about, like my dumbass did. I later got other terrariums for him, and several years later I wanted to get him friends. So I brought 2 more white tree frogs, Chester and Fran. They died a week later. And I'm guessing I was the reason, and I still hate myself for that. But Bella was doing fine. A month after I got so bummed about it, and I wanted to find a new home for him. I was scared I was going to kill him too. The guy I sold him to had a huge paludarium with 10 other frogs of the same species. And I don't have any pictures of it, but since it was such a long time ago. But it looked bomb, and he had proper lighting, lots of space, live plants and friends. So that was the story of my white tree frog, Belpagor. I took a hiatus, and I don't know, I think it was a year later. One day I really got into ball pythons. I read a lot about them and joined the reptile forums in my country. Essentially joining the reptile community. The interest held on to me for a couple of months, and I knew tons about them now. I asked my boyfriend if we could get one, and of course he said no. Snakes are scary and all that, you know. So I asked him again a few times a day for weeks. And one day, after resisting to murder me, he said yes, but had terms. He didn't want anything to do with them. So I'm already sitting in my car halfway downtown to buy a terrarium. Now, I have done proper research and actually set up everything before I got the animal. I bought a used tank with some decorations, and later I went with my friend and got Coda. I got him from the reptiles shop I mentioned earlier, and he was a little turd back then. Now he's a big turd. Sometime later I really got into green tree pythons, and once again I read tons about them, and Jesus fucking Christ, I love everything about them. I mean, look at this. They are not so common and cheap here in Sweden, so one day I saw one for sale from a breeder and I jumped into it immediately. We were having a reptile expo in a month or 2 months away, so we agreed to pick him up on the expo. So I had time to set up a quarantine tab because, ladies, we are serious and we are knowledgeable. Yes. Then I had Kiwi for quite a while. It was a really nice and kind green tree python. If you are really into green tree pythons, you know they have different localities. And Kiwi was Liray locality. But I didn't feel like it was a red snake for me in the end. I can't really tell why, but I found a new home for him and said goodbye. Today I kind of miss him, but I don't really cry over it. I don't know. I wanted to expand my snake collection and looked into what reptile shop had. You know, the reptile shop I love to shop from. I found one black African snake and I absolutely fell in love with her. I did my research and set up a bin for her. Then went and bought her. Unfortunately, she didn't want to eat for weeks and even a month or two. I tried everything and asked around on the reptile forums. I, in the end, went back to the shop where I got her from, and it turned out she never started to eat on her own. They force fed her and hoped she would start eating on her own later on. So they took her in and would help me with the feeding until she started to eat on her own. She ate a couple of times and pooped, but after a week or two she passed away and I never asked for my money back. I was really sad about it. The snake passing away, of course. The biggest mistake that I did was not to ask about the snake's health before I bought her. I think she was too young and I didn't make sure she was eating properly before I got her. I guess she was one of those snakes that wouldn't make it out of her clutch. More time has passed and I went back to the reptile shop. This time I was really into Boas, but I didn't want to get a ginormous constrictor, so I looked into the dwarf localities and found out about the Hog Island Boas. I read tons about them and here's Jupiter. She's born in 2018 and still with me. She is quite grumpy and has a personality, but I absolutely love her. After that, I really want to get into some crested geckos, so I looked around for a breeder and found one that I really liked. Here is Nacho. I also have pictures of his parents because I like to hoard photos, I guess. And this is his mom, and this is his dad. I don't really have much to say about him, since he's a good boy. And the only thing that I can come up with is that he managed to hurt his eye on some of the decors in his tank, I guess. So he's now blind on one eye and it's much smaller than the other one. He's born in 2018 and he's still with me. So after selling Kiwi and Onyx passing away, I still had an empty enclosure, ready for a snake. So I looked around for the forums and found a really nice Calibi ball python for sale. Calibi is a morph, pattern and coloring, you know. I didn't notice until later, but a month before there was an expo and I took a picture of him. So Caliber was born in 2012 and was an old breeder male. So they didn't need him for their plans anymore and that's why they want to rehome him. I mentioned before in my ball python video, but he was a really bad eater. I don't blame him. I kinda do. But he made me lose interest in ball pythons. It's a little bit sad, but I didn't feel like I had a connection with him. With my other reptiles, I feel very interested in caring for them. But with Caliber, there was just a lot of frustration and annoyance because of him not wanting to eat for 8 months. He only lost 8 grams during the time, and I tried absolutely everything I could think of. He just kept refusing to eat, so in the end I felt like I couldn't do much for him and find him a new home. Okay, buckle up because this one is a little bit wild one. I also became very interested in Dalmatian crested geckos and found a grown female for sale from a good breeder. I wanted to get more into geckos and bought Juno. She was a proven breeder, meaning it was confirmed that she had babies with a baby daddy. And a funny story, a month into owning her, I came to check on her one morning and she had laid 2 fertile eggs overnight. I was very surprised, I can say, and I was zero prepared. I contacted the breeder and I got her from, and I was like, yo homie, what the fuck? And he said that apparently she was paired up with a male 3 months before selling her. I asked why he didn't tell me about it, and he just said that he wrote that she was a proven breeder. Now, if you don't know anything about breeding crested geckos, the female can lay eggs up to a year. So having a nice dinner with a male. and then proceeding to lay eggs over the span of 1 year. So she can choose when she wants to lay eggs. So I got Foxtrot, I got Vulgrim and Fury from the same clutch, and then I got Alcatraz and Inferno and Armageddon. Sadly, Armageddon got his head stuck between the tub and the lid and passed away. I used to check on them about twice a day, but this must have happened before I went to sleep. So when I checked up on them in the morning, he had his little head stuck in the lid and sadly had passed away overnight. The rest of the eggs Juno laid I felt was too much and I disposed of them. I later sold Foxtrot, Fury and Vulgrim and Inferno. Alcatraz is still with me. He doesn't have as many spots as the other ones from his siblings, and I tried to sell him for the past 7 months, but no one wants him, so he's stuck with me. And this is about where I started my YouTube channel. My next animals were 4 Satanic lift-tail geckos: Hallow, Harvest, Havoc and Hellhound. I got them from a breeder in Ukraine and I had to travel across the whole Europe to get my hands on them. They are doing absolutely fantastic, so not much to say about them. I have about 3 videos just rambling about these geckos. I still have them and I plan to breed them in the future year. About the same time as I got my Satanic lift-tail geckos, I got my second boa. This is a boa longicauda, and as you can see, she is still a small baby and currently eating for 3. She is nice and docile, but will bite if she thinks you're food. So she's a feisty little sausage. I got her from a small-scale breeder and I loved how her parents looked. The Longicauda locality is known for their patterns turning black with age. Here are her parents. So after I rehomed Calibi, I still had a big empty enclosure left and I really wanted to get another boa. So I got Eivor. I now feel that my collection is pretty much completed, aside from breeding the Satanic lift-tail geckos. The upside with reptiles is that they don't really get attached to you like a dog or a cat would. I mean like love and affection. They don't give 2 ducks about cuddles and who takes care of them, as long as they're taken care of. Also, learn from me and my past mistakes. Don't impulse buy animals that you do not know anything about. And that's it for today. Stay safe and stay crispy. Goodbye.